President, please be seated. The court is now back in session, and the chamber gives the floor back to the Deputy Co-Prosecutor to resume the presentation of key documents. You may now proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. When we broke, I was talking about presenting documents related specifically to events in 1977 and mid-1977 in which there were DK incursions into Vietnam. And I wanted to read from a 15 June 1977 telegram that came from the DK ambassador to Vietnam. This is E3878. This telegram was distributed to Pol Pot, Nguyen Chea, Eng Suri, Born Vet, Son Sen, and office. And the DK ambassador is reporting again on a meeting he had with his counterpart from Vietnam. Quote, on the afternoon of 15 June, Son summoned me yet again and said, on 14 June 1977, starting at 8 p.m., a company of our forces committed aggression across their border over a length of 40 kilometers in Ha Tien. He said our forces, with 105s hauled in as auxiliary support, carried out a coordinated storming attack against their security posts, slaughtering and torching residences, bringing about enormous casualties. And then the telegram continues. The fact that the Kampuchean army committed such transgressions, slaughtering, burning, and smashing, is not something they are raising according to reports, but something for which there can be clear and irrefutable evidence. If I wanted to look at the photographs, he could make them available for me to view. End of quote. We've presented or used some documents already in these proceedings relating to an attack that took place on the 24th of September 1977. We've used Nyan Chanda's discussion of that and Stephen Morris. Let me just read to you from Ben Kiernan on the same subject. E3 1593, Khmer 00637 924 through 925, French 00639 153 through 154, English 0115 0193. It is page 373 of Kiernan's book. Quote, on the night of 24 September 1977, elements of the reconstituted 3rd East Zone Division under the general command of Son Sen crossed into Tai Ninh province and massacred nearly 300 civilians in 5 villages of Tin Bien and Ben Cao districts. Several days after the 24 September attack, a Democratic Kampuchea Central Zone Company commander returned from the scene of the massacre. He remarked with sadness, a witness related, that he had never expected the revolution to come to what he had just seen and done. After composing a brief suicide note, he shot himself. End of quote. Kiernan, Your Honors, Kiernan's sources for this was his 1980 interviews of witnesses at the site, and also a interview conducted by Steve Heder in 1980 of a surviving member of the Camp on Somme Party Committee, Chap Lon. And I won't repeat Nyan Chanda's evidence on this. I will simply note, though, again, that in the pages that we've cited before, Nyan Chanda not only had reports at the time from Vietnamese source, a source who had taken a Hungarian journalist to the site of these September 24, 1977 attacks. Nyan Chanda went out there himself a few months later, and at the end of his discussion of all this in Brother Enemy E3 2376, you'll find this at Khmer 00191 555 through 56, French 00237 083 through 84, English 00192 405 through 06. After describing the horrific sights, from survivors, we heard unprompted stories of medieval atrocities. There was no longer any doubt in my mind about the reality of this bitter conflict that the Vietnamese had kept out of public view for so long. Even given Hanoi's oft-proven ability to manipulate the press, the evidence I had seen was too overwhelming. End of quote. Your Honors, I'll briefly refer you as well to a contemporaneous document. This appears to be one of the telegrams that came from the ambassadors. This is document E3 981, E3 981, and the first paragraph of this telegram describes delivering a letter to the embassy in Phnom Penh, and states, quote, "They reiterated that our troops had invaded into Tai Ninh during September 1977, massacring and killing more than 1,000 people. Currently, troops are deployed 5 to 6 kilometers deep inside the Vietnamese soil in Ben Ho, Cat Tum, Ben Binh districts." End of quote. Another document from this same time period is a 26 October 1977 telegram, Your Honors, document E3 8369, E3 8369. This is a 26 October 1977 telegram from Sao Pim using the alias Chon to Office 870. And in Section 1, it reports on a 25 October 1977 attack on the enemy's headquarters and states as follows, quote, "At the first important prong, we designated a special squad to attack inside the enemy's intestines, headquarters, and another position in Trung. At the first prong, our special troops completely destroyed the enemy's headquarters. The contemptible commander and his bodyguards were all killed. The commander's buildings and all houses were totally burned down. Trophies were not collected on time as we carried out a quick strike." And at the very end of his telegram, Sao Pim reports, quote, "Before our attack, We shelled 105 millimeter 100 times into Trung Market, leaving some houses burned. When the night came, we started fire. I've read to you the quote from Nine Chanda, in which he says the evidence of this is overwhelming. We read part of this quote before, but I wanted to read the complete quote because one of the accused, Q Sampan, has also acknowledged that the evidence of this is, in his words, irrefutable. This is in his book, Cambodia's Recent History, E3/18, E3/18, Khmer 00103-849 through 850, French 00595-446 through 47, English 00103, repeat that, English 00103-759 through 760. And so it is clear, Q Sampan here states that he became aware of the April 1977 attacks on Tin Minh after 1979, and then he writes the following. The Vietnamese responded to these attacks using A-37 strike aircraft left by the Americans after the war. These counterattacks were followed by even bloodier Cambodian incursions at the end of September. And for this reference, he cites Nine Chanda regarding the counterattacks. He then continues, though, to say the following, his personal words. The events recounted are irrefutable. There is no doubt that the Khmer Rouge made forays into Vietnam villages along the border, committing appalling crimes against Vietnamese civilians. When I learned of these medieval-type cruelties, I became quite despondent, and it took me several weeks to recover. Once I recovered, a serious question occurred to me. Contrary to what I had once thought, is it possible that it was the Khmer Rouge who, without assessing their own abilities, decided to embark on a policy of military hostility against Vietnam, which was so much more powerful? End of quote. I want to turn now to documents relating to the first Vietnamese invasion in late 1977 that followed these incursions and atrocities. In Stephen Morris's book, Why Vietnam Invaded Cambodia, E3/73-38, and as your honors know, these are English-only sites. Pages English 01001778 through 79, pages 111 to 112 of the book. Quote, Vietnam's direct efforts at subversion appear to have been abandoned after 1975. In fact, until early 1978, it appears that the Vietnamese leaders were responding to Cambodian attacks defensively and with some sense of political and military proportionality. During the years 1975 to 77, Vietnamese responses to Khmer Rouge provocations were extremely measured, even restrained. And then continuing a few pages, or at English 01001768, page 101 of Morris's book, quote, in December 1977, the border fighting between Vietnam and Cambodia intensified ever further. Hanoi used warplanes, artillery, and around 20,000 men in a major thrust into the Parrot's Beak province of Svay Rieng, only 55 miles from Ho Chi Minh City. But the Vietnamese attempted to downplay the significance of the fighting. Apparently, they believed that a display of strength would bring the militarily inferior Cambodians to negotiate. Instead, the CPK attitude hardened. And there was a report of this in the international media, an article from the New York Times on the 4th of January, 1978. And Your Honors, this is document E3-8190, E3-8190. The article is titled, "Vietnam Holds Cambodian Region After Bitter Fight, U.S. Aides Say." The article reports the following, quote, "From mid-September to November 1977, Cambodian pressure on the frontier increased, with troops encroaching as far as 4 miles into Vietnam and inflicting heavy casualties. In November, Vietnam built up its military units in Tay Ninh province. In the first week of December, the Vietnamese opened an offensive with infantry, armed units, and artillery, forcing Cambodian troops back and capturing positions 10 to 15 miles inside Cambodia. Ben Kiernan on this December 1977 Vietnamese attack in Pol Pot regime E3-1593, Khmer 00637-926 through 927, French 00639-154 through 55, and English 0115-0194. It is pages 374 to 375 of his book. Quote, "As fighting continued over the next several months, Hanoi prepared for a major incursion in December 1977 that would involve 30 to 60,000 troops with air, armor, and artillery support. A district cadre in Pointe Crec agrees that both the Central and East Zone troops on the border quickly retreated west in disarray." And he quotes this district cadre that he interviewed. "No one knew who was in command of what or who was where." End of quote. And I want to take you through a few of the contemporaneous reports that came from the East Zone in December 1977 that show exactly this in terms of the Vietnamese rapidly being able to enter Cambodian territory and the Cambodian troops being in disarray. The first, a document E3-982, which is a 6 December 1977 telegram from Sao Pim to Brother Pol. Sao Pim is here using, again, his alias Chon. This appears to be one of the first reports after the Vietnamese had launched this large-scale invasion in early December 1977. Quote, Sao Pim reports, quote, "The Yun enemy attacked us from all spearheads at 5:30 a.m. on 6 December 1977. The enemy attacked us along route number 1 westwards. They led many tanks to press on us." And then Sao Pim makes the following request. "Could you please take immediate measures so that T-23 can curb the attack on time? We would like to receive some additional suggestions to this situation we are looking forward to implementing them. Confirmation the enemy's attack has become rather severe." End of quote. And the next document, Your Honors, is E3-897, E3/897, which is a telegram the next day, 7 December 1977, also from Sao Pim to Office 870, distributed to Uncle, that is Pol Pot, Uncle Nun, Nun Chea, Brother Van, that is Ieng Sary, Brother Born, Born Vet, and Brother Q, Son Sen. And this internal contemporaneous document report clearly records that at the time this Vietnamese incursion began, DK forces were still occupying parts of Vietnam territory as of early December 1977. And if we can show this on the screen, if we have it, E3-897. Section 1 of Sao Pim's report on the enemy situation in Region 23 states as follows, quote, "The attacks are of a fairly large scale of destructive character. First, they attack us with an attempt to make us withdraw our forces from their territories. Second, their intrusion is not so deep. While they destroy our rice and evacuate people into their territories. As mentioned above, it is requested that Angkor take measures and add more defense forces to secure a period from now till husked and unhusked rice can be collected." And then continuing later, "I have the following instructions. Withdraw some of our forces in their territory to attack them from behind, while the forces from local bases need to storm." End of quote. And as the month of December proceeds, the telegrams reports reflect a deteriorating situation for the DK forces. Document E3-8372, E3-8372 is a 22 December 77 telegram from Sao Pim, and if we are able to show that on the screen, E3-8372. Sao Pim reports, quote, "The enemy situation along highways 22-7. The enemy has hit and broken through our combat-ready lines in many places." Continuing below, "Regarding the enemy's situation on 22 December 77, beginning at 5 in the morning until the present time, the situation is that every spearhead has been hit and broken by the enemy. Our situation is that we and the Battlefield Command Committee were totally surrounded by the enemy, but have now broken out and are carrying out preparations to counterattack the enemy." 2 days later, Your Honor, document E3-908, E3-908, 24 December 1977, report to Office 870. This comes from an East Zone Committee member, Pung, who was the chairman of the zone rubber plantation. Again, distributed to all the top leaders in Phnom Penh. It reports, quote, "The Yun control Highway 7 from Stung Village to the Memo Market. They have reached the entirety of the rubber plantation, have burned the rubber sap, and have taken much rice and salt. On this 24th of December, we remain in a situation of loss of mastery. The army is scattered, cannot communicate, and cannot grasp its commanders or the enemy. Much of the ammunition taken in the past to prepare for border combat has now been taken by the enemy. In this situation, we are personally proposing that Ankar closely assist and intervene. End of quote. Your Honors, I started this presentation by reading from the statements that were issued on the 31 December 1977 as the situation became dire for DK forces. And let me also just note that on that same day, the 31st of December 1977, a statement was also issued by the DK Minister of Foreign Affairs, and that is document E3-1265, stating, quote, "The government of Democratic Kampuchea has decided provisionally to break off diplomatic relations with the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, in effect from 31 December 1977, until the withdrawal of the Army of Aggression of the SRV. Paragraph 2, all diplomats and staff of the Embassy of the SRV to Democratic Kampuchea must leave on 7 January 1978 at the latest." End of quote. Next, a few documents as to relating to what took place on the 6th of January 1978, when Vietnamese troops voluntarily withdrew from the country. Ben Kiernan, E3-1593, Khmer 00637-926 through 27, English 0115-0194, and French 00639-155. Kiernan writes, quote, "On 6 January, the invading troops returned to Vietnamese territory. Over 100,000 Khmer from all sections of the border took the opportunity to escape with them." And footnote 8, recording Kiernan's sources, includes the following quote from Kiernan's 1980 interview of a district cadre. Quote, "When the Vietnamese withdrew of their own accord, our side did not know about it." At 9 Chanda, on the same events in Brother Enemy, E3-2376, Khmer 00191-547, French 00237-077, English 00192-397 through 398. This is pages 212 to 213 of Chanda's book. Quote, "In early January 1978, while the war of the airwaves was joined in earnest by Phnom Penh and Hanoi, elements of 3 central divisions under the command of 3 stalwarts of the Khmer Rouge government, Defense Minister Son Sen, Central Zone Commander Kai Pak, and Southwest Zone Commander Tamak, began to move toward the Eastern Zone. But before the divisions could confront Hanoi's troops, they turned back and headed home. To hide its initial defeat, the Khmer Rouge began an intense propaganda campaign to present the voluntary Vietnamese withdrawal as a great historic victory. And you'll see an example of what Chanda is writing about, Your Honors, in the September 1978 Revolutionary Flag. This is E3 215, E3/215, Khmer 000649595, French 0052473, English 00488-622. This is a Pol Pot speech given on the 18th anniversary of the party. Quote, in late 1977, they began to strike our Kampuchea in very large scale. They assembled 14 military divisions, among them 4 frontline forces divisions to strike. However, we struck them and defeated them on 6 January 1978. The 6 January 1978 defeat was the great strategic defeat of the UN and Soviet strategy of strike quickly, win quickly. End of quote. I'll now turn to events in 1978, starting with some evidence that despite this, what we would call in English, that shot across the bow by the Vietnamese in late 1977, the attacks by the DK forces continued, and there were no negotiations between these two countries. And there is a January 1978 telegram from Sao Pim, using again the alias Chon, to Brother Pol, copies to Boon Chea, Ing Suri, and the gang, E3-243, E3/243, if we can show this on the screen. Paragraph 1 of Sao Pim's report on the situation in Sector 24 of the East Zone includes the following.
Please hold on. Judge Laverne, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I note that since this morning, in his document presentation, reference is made to a certain number of telegrams that were signed by Chon, and the co-prosecutor, just as yesterday with Victor Koppe, told us that Chon was Sao Pim's revolutionary alias. So would it be possible maybe to give us a base that would allow us to check this and to verify that that is indeed the case?
Thank you, Judge Laverne. I was going to do exactly that after reading this telegram, because this telegram contains something that helps us there, and I also will make a couple of additional comments in response to your question. Let me first read this report, E3-243. We can show it on the screen. 19 January 1978, situation in Sector 24. Quote, on the 16th, we continued mobilizing forces to infiltrate their territory. Our force smashed 15 UN enemy and destroyed 5 UN enemy boats. We launched guerrilla attack in their territory 2 kilometers from our border. Result, we smashed 30 houses and burned down several civilian houses. We smashed 2 enemy motorboats. Their people in the motorboats were all destroyed. In total, we smashed 30 enemies on 18 January. Also on 18 January at 3 a.m., we continued firing Rocket 107 into Hoc Nhi Market. We could not grasp the result. However, we saw it was on fire. End of quote. Now, Judge Laverne, this was not the telegram I had in mind. This is a telegram that's clearly recording that attacks into Vietnam confirmed. Let me just skip ahead and find the telegram that I was going to use to address the very point that you've raised. If I can find it quickly, I will respond to your question right now, and if not, when I get to it. Actually, I've just found it. So, one of the telegrams that helps with the question you've asked is a telegram sent on the 15th of January, 1978. 15 January 1978 from John to Brother Pol. It's E3/920. E3/920. It reads, quote, on 8 January 1978, Unit 170 raided in Kampong Rokar. We launched B-40 and M79 into their base. Then continuing on, in the morning of the 14 January 1978, gunfire was heard at the above location. Now, here is the key part. After leaving you, the next morning we held a meeting with the Battlefield Commanding Committee to instruct them to push forward in the direction we had discussed. Let me repeat that. This is a telegram that's addressed to Brother Pol. It says, after leaving you, the next morning we held a meeting at which he conveyed the instructions. Now, why that is significant is if you, in Ben Kiernan's book, there is discussion of Pol Pot coming to a meeting in the East Zone shortly after 6 January 1978 Vietnamese withdrawal for a meeting with Sao Pim. So we have from Kiernan that there was this trip by Pol Pot to meet with Sao Pim in the East Zone, and then we have this telegram. Just for the references for Kiernan, just for your record, are from Pol Pot regime E3 1593, Khmer 00637-940 through 941, French 00639-167, English 0115-0200, where Kiernan writes, quote, just after the Vietnamese pullback of 6 January 1978, Pol Pot arrived in the eastern zone. He called a public meeting at Wat Tong beside a rubber plantation in Sung district. Also presiding were Son Sen, Sao Pim, and Kai Pak. This is just one example, Judge Laverne, and I'm happy to give you others. There are other telegrams in which there are some personal references that tell us this. Most importantly, though, I would say the conclusion is that these are not isolated telegrams. If you look at our Annex 4 that contains chronologically the telegrams, all the reports, or virtually all reports from the East Zone from 1976 up until mid-78, including the general reports on everything, military, food production, are signed by Chon. So it's a combination of all this that the only person who could be reporting these matters on this regular basis had to be the leader of the East Zone, plus some specific hints like from the document that I just read. So I was presenting on the issue of events in 1978, and specifically some documents related to the continued DK incursions and attacks into Vietnam in that year. There is an 8 April 1978 telegram telegram number 18 from Son Sen, using the alias 47. Anticipating you may have a question of how do we know that 47 was Son Sen, and I have this quote somewhere in my outline, but one of the telegram operators who received the telegrams in Phnom Penh has identified 47 as the code number that was used by Son Sen when he sent telegrams when he was in the East Zone. I'll give you that reference later, as it's not in my notes right here. But in this 8 April 1978 telegram, E31076, E31076, excuse me, if we can show this on the screen, if we have it. Paragraph 1 reports, we attacked and entered the Dong Tap Population Center and the market south of Trapping Prim and Tan Chau. We killed and wounded many hundreds of them and burned hundreds of houses. We continue to fire 107s and DK-75s into Tan Chau. Tan Chau is a district in Vietnam on the west side of the Mekong where it crosses into Vietnam. The Dong Tap is the province on the east side of the Mekong in the same area. There is also a reference in a VNA, Vietnamese News Agency report on the 3rd of March 1978. This is a report that was broadcast to the Vietnamese News Agency called Statements by Cambodian Prisoners and Refugees, document E3-1269, E3-1269, only available in English, English S, 00009871 through 72, which reported, quote, Kampuchean troops were ordered to kill all, burn all, destroy all in their attacks on Vietnamese territory. 5 captured Kampuchean soldiers told French reporters in Vietnam's Tay Ninh province last month. The 5 prisoners spoke for more than 1 hour with correspondents of AFP, the Agence France Presse, and also L'Humanité, who reported that they were among 4,000 Kampuchean soldiers captured in Tay Ninh since October last year. I want to turn now to some documents that show the conflict in the 1977-78 period in various border regions. I'll give you a few examples in the time I have left. I've tried to find some telegrams and reports from each region. But I wanted to start with a rather important document that gives an overview. It's a party circular dated the 13th of July, 1978, entitled Views on the Current Situation of the Revolution of Kampuchea, document E3-791, excuse me, E3/791. And at the start of this, there is an overview of the situations in the battlefields in various regions. You'll find that if you look at Khmer 000-79296, English 00721-427, French 00747-882 through 83. This party circular states, I quote, Current situations in the battlefields are as follows. Ratnakiri, 2 Yun regiments attacked us on Road 19 in early 1978. It was their sectoral forces. They advanced by 10 kilometers. Nowadays, enemies are stationed approximately 3 kilometers from the border. The east, their 1 division forces in Mamat are fighting fiercely. And Sviring, there are over 1 division forces in the area of Prasat are fighting fiercely. Yun maintains only 3 divisions as of July. And on the same page and continuing on to the next page, there is a particularly important quote that states the following, this party circular. Quote, "We must also enter their territory. Since January 1978, we have stationed east of the red line of the Dragon Tail, 5 kilometers from the border, and conducted regular militia activities. Such activities have also reached the southwest. We target Loch Ninh and identify some specific locations on the other side of the Mekong-Bassac rivers. We have controlled areas from Tang Chau to Chau Dak and advanced our fight near Kramun Sa. We have controlled a large area." And continuing on the next page, "The direction for developments is to transform the entire East into the same battlefields as in the Southwest. If we apply the line properly, we will be able to attack and enter enemy's territory. We must make our bases clean and our soldiers cleaner." And then continuing 2 pages later, this is Khmer 000799299, French 747885, English 721430. Quote, "Yun experienced a significant defeat. Their invasion ambition was paralyzed. Many of their forces were attacked and smashed by us. We advanced onto their territory and gained more control. Under the party's leadership, the Khmer Kampuchea Krom movement launches organized attacks against Vietnam." Now, let me take just a few examples of some documents from different regions. There are many reports, of course, and those will obviously be summarized in a brief. We've had a lot of evidence from the combat in the Parrots Beak, Svai Ring area. This is the Highway 1 front, sectors 23 and 24 of the East Zone. I want to read just one telegram on this. It's actually from 29 October 1977, another telegram from Chan, we believe Sao Pim, to Office 870, E3892, E3892. Quote, "We would like to know what Office 870 is going to do with Vietnamese caught at villagers' houses in Tadev village. If Office 870 wants these Vietnamese, we will send them. Now they are kept being interrogated. We would like to report only just then." And the captured Vietnamese are referenced in a prior, the telegram from the prior day, 28 October 1977, telegram E3890. I won't read from it, but it describes how 3 Vietnamese soldiers were captured in this village. I will have a few references to documents confirming captures of Vietnamese, as that is also an issue that's arisen in the proceedings. Another key front was on Highway 7. Your Honors, this was in sectors 20, primarily Sector 21 of the East Zone in part of Kampuchea Province. When you see references to the towns of Krek and Mehmet, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that town correctly. This was the Highway 7 front. And let me read to you, this was the telegram I've actually already read. That was a report from Sao Pim discussing his meeting with Pol Pot, so I will skip that one. Let me just note for your honors that there are a number of documents from this region that are fairly significant because this was the front that Kai Pak was in charge of commanding. And let me just identify for the record the series of reports that come from Kai Pak in 1978 describing the conflict and fighting there. There is a 12 April 1978 telegram 02 from Kai Pak addressed to Committee 870 E3932, an 18 April 78 telegram number 05 from Kai Pak also to Committee 870 E3/1009, a 29 April 78 telegram E3/245, a 4 May 1978 telegram 10 from Kai Pak E3/516, and then a telegram sent on 6 May 1978, telegram 11 from Kai Pak, which is number E3/250. And just to read a few excerpts from this last telegram, E3/250, quote, "On the Highway 7 battlefield, both west and east, and on the Khatum and Mehmet battlefields, we have attacked the enemy and liberated all of our territory. A large number of the enemy were killed and wounded, and a tank was hit by fire and burned. For us, I have prepared the East Zone Unit Division 4 and Sector 41 units to cooperate to attack the enemy at Barracks 733, and I have decided to withdraw the unit of Comrade Vin to have them attack the enemy along Highway 28. And you will see similar detailed reports of the combat in Kai Pak's other reports. Mondulkiri, Ratnakiri, the Northeast Zone region is an area that we've discussed in court. So let me just present to you one report or telegram that we did not have a chance to use in the witnesses who testified. This is document E3/1030, E3/1030. And this is, if we're able to show it on screen, this is a 20 June 1977 telegram, and it comes from a person we've heard about in the court, Sector 105 Military Chief Tasapia, a telegram he sends to Sector Secretary Lang, who used the alias Chan. And in paragraph 1 of Sector 105 Military Chief Sopia's report, at Oplay, they intruded 20 meters into our land and cut bamboo. We attacked and killed and wounded a number of them on 17 June 1977. And then in paragraph 2 of the telegram, the 7 group that attacked us at Pichchenda has now attacked and entered Apu Tri Chas village and Ton village and Day village. There were 30 of them. We are now organizing forces to ambush them. Comrade Ving is organizing a force to monitor them further. I present this one because Comrade Ving is also a cadre whose name came up in the testimony in court. Sector 505, this is Kretchi province, which was another area in which there was a battlefront. And your honors will be able to refer to a number of telegrams that came from the secretary of Kretchi sector, Sector 505. And let me just list those telegrams for the record. 5 November 1977 is actually a telegram from to Comrade Yi through Office 870. It's document E3978. And in this telegram, it is reported that Vietnamese troops that had crossed the border had fell into our spike traps, and a request to be able to make mines and hand grenades. And then there are a series of reports from Comrade Yi, the sector secretary, E3986 as a 16 December 1977 telegram, December 22 December 1977 telegram, E38371, 21 March 1978, E3/1012, 21 April 1978, E3/157, 25 April 1978, E3943. All reports from the Kretchi sector on ongoing fighting with the Vietnamese. The Southwest Zone, there are a few reports, only a few reports and evidence for the zone, but again, let me refer you to E3853, which is a June 1977 report from the Southwest Zone. The first paragraph reports on fighting at the border, the Cambodia Vietnamese border. You'll also find a report from Tamok, 8 April 1978, telegram from Tamok to Brother Pol, E31062. And there are also reports of the fighting that went on at sea that came from Division 164. Document E3997 is a 20 March 1978 record of a report from Division 164 Secretary Mut talking about sinking a ship, a Vietnamese ship or boat near Kep. And E3/928, E3928 is a April 78 report from Division 164 Secretary Mut that states, as I read, quote, "In sum, the number of Yun who have been captured and shot to death from 27 March 1978 through 30 March 1978 is 120 head." End of quote. Mr. President, I have about maybe 5 or 10 minutes more if you'd like me to finish, if I may. If you. Thank you. A couple of documents related to Vietnamese POWs who were captured by DK forces and sent to S-21. 14 February 1978 telegram from Son Sen using the code number 47, distributed to Pol Pot and Nuon Chea as document E3-181. E3-181. If we have that on the screen, it's near the end. And in paragraph 5 of Son Sen's report, paragraph 5 states, quote, Comrade Tal captured 2 Yuan heads, ages 17 and 27. They were sent to S-21, end of quote. And I bring this up because in the OCIJ S-21 list, on the following day, the day after this report, records that 2 Vietnamese entered S-21. A 17-year-old Ly Vang Kung, described as a Vietnamese spy. He's number 8227 on the OCIJ list. And a 27-year-old Trung Yang Nim, described as a Vietnamese farmer sent from Svai Ring, OCIJ number 14893. So these 2 Vietnamese entered S-21 the day after this telegram from Son Sen, and the ages match what is reported in Son Sen's telegram. You'll also find a reference, another telegram from Son Sen reporting on combat and a capture of a Vietnamese who he refers to being sent to S-21 this evening, and that is a 20 March 1978 telegram, E3867. E3867. Let me finish, Your Honors, just by reading from a quote or two relating to the end of this fighting, the final Vietnamese large-scale offensive that began on the 25th of December 1978. And I'd like to read first Nine Chanda, a brother enemy, E3-2376, E3-2376, Khmer 00191-685, English 00192-527, and French 00237-172. This is his description of the final push by Vietnamese forces in late 78. Quote, for nearly a week before beginning the tank-led push, the Vietnamese Air Force mounted an intense bombing attack on Khmer Rouge positions. By concentrating some 30,000 men, half of the Khmer Rouge regular force, in an arc along the Parrot's Beak and Fishhook areas near the Vietnamese border, Pol Pot made their destruction easier. These troops were decimated by a combination of artillery fire and aerial bombing after being picked up by spotter aircraft. There was surprisingly little resistance from Pol Pot's peasant army, which knew how to kill with machetes but had not had time to learn to fly fighter planes or man anti-aircraft guns. End of quote. And in Ben Kiernan, the Pol Pot regime, E3-1593, Khmer 00638-032-33, English 0115-0232, French 00639-239. The following account of the final offensive by Vietnam. Quote, on 21 December 1978, Vietnam's defense minister, Vo Nguyen Giap, called for an overpowering force to wipe out the enemy. 4 days later, Hanoi launched a massive invasion of Cambodia from the east. Its Bloomberg Lotus strategy, devised by Vietnam's Chief of Staff, General Van Thanh Dung, involved unexpectedly striking at the center, wiping out the enemy command there, and then fanning out to destroy perimeter outposts. 150,000 Vietnamese troops and 15,000 Cambodian insurgents stormed across the border with the devastating air support of 40 to 50 daily sorties in the area of Kretchi alone. On 30 December, they seized Kretchi town, threatening to cut Cambodia in half. And of course, it continues on to describe the progress over the next week until Phnom Penh was captured. But thank you for the additional time, and that ends our document presentation.
Thank you. It is now convenient for our lunch break. The chamber will take a break now and resume at 1:30 this afternoon. And security personnel, you are instructed to take Hieu Sampon to the waiting room downstairs and have him returned to attend the proceedings this afternoon before 1:30. The court stands in recess.
Dr.